Hey friend, welcome to part 2 of The Secret About Accents. In part 1, I stressed the importance of recognizing that each of us has an accent, and that the sounds of our speech have a lot to say about us. On the flip side, we may not be as eloquent about our accents as our accents are about us. Hi, I'm Kate Glasheen. I'm a voice and dialect coach with a passion for health and wellness. You can learn more about me at kateglasheen.com, and if you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe below. Let's get started. If you didn't already watch part 1, go ahead and do that now. I'll wait. Now that we're all on the same page, the next most important thing to recognize is that you are likely the worst judge of your own accent. This is completely understandable when you think about how easy it is to take a daily activity like speech and take it for granted. We remember learning things like spelling and grammar, but learning to speak is so early in our lives and is such a process of osmosis that we don't remember it, and we certainly don't choose how we're going to pronounce our words. All we can do is imitate the sounds and articulator movements of the people we're around the most. Depending on where and how you grew up, you may have encountered people who sound very different from you at a very early age. And this is a huge asset, but it can also come with the pressure or necessity of changing how you speak in order to assimilate. Regardless, we all have a family of origin, and until we have that first encounter, we're bound to think like everyone speaks like we do, at least for a while. Unless you're a student of accents, such as an actor, a dialect coach, a linguist, a teacher or translator of languages, you likely haven't given your own accent that much detailed thought. The caveat to this, of course, is if you've ever been mocked or had to change your accent to fit in or feel safe. And even then, you may not be able to identify all the specific features or have the language to describe them. As I mentioned in part 1, it's important for actors to thoroughly understand their own accents because we have to leave them behind when we learn new ones. A brief example. In the United States, there's a feature called the pin-pen merger. In my accent, this is a pin and this is a pen. For many American Southerners and Midwesterners, these two words merge to use the same vowel sound. They're both pins. Now, I'm demonstrating with the pin-pen merger because it's very relevant to me as a dialect coach working in Texas, and it's also a feature that's very difficult for people to hear in their own speech. It's also really hard to know which words this feature affects. So if an actor isn't aware of this feature, it could show up in other accents that they're learning. Consider the following sentence. In a more general American accent like mine, it would sound like this. Ben bought an expensive tent. If I were an actor who had the pin-pen merger and didn't know I needed to leave it out, the sentence would sound like this. Ben bought an expensive tint. So you can hear that that's not quite right for a general American sort of sound. Let's hear it in a couple other accents. In a standard British accent, it would sound like this. Ben bought an expensive tint. In a classic sort of Brooklyn accent, it might sound like this. Ben bought an expensive tint. Hopefully you can hear that that's just not quite right. Which brings me to the other inspiration for this pair of videos. There are thousands of videos out there on the old YouTubes about accent and dialect, and many of them are tutorials. And I know, don't read the comments, but I do. And inevitably, someone from that culture or background or city comments and says, well, I don't sound anything like that, or this is really inaccurate, or come on, that's really cartoony. Now, I know there are inaccurate and possibly offensive videos on accent and dialect out there, but for all the good ones, it's important to understand the context of a dialect tutorial. The simple truth is, it's impossible to teach a fully authentic accent in a single video. So it's important to remember the following. Number 1, in a short tutorial, dialect coaches are trying to give you just a few widely recognizable keystone features of an accent to focus on. They're giving you anchor points that ground you in the desired sound and give you very specific physical tasks to focus on. Number 2, an exaggerated version of an accent is easier to learn than a subtle version. And exaggerated doesn't necessarily mean unrealistic. Part of this skill set is learning to scale from subtle to strong to encompass all the varieties of this accent that exist. And finally, you may not recognize these features in yourself because it's really hard to hear ourselves objectively. Or your accent just may be more subtle than what you're hearing in the video. Remember, we are usually the least able to hear what we really sound like. Dialect tutorial videos are great for actors who need to quickly prepare for an audition that's coming up, or for improv actors who need to deftly switch between accents given the unpredictable prompts that get thrown at them. And they're just fun. What they're not is a comprehensive analysis of every variety of the accent in question. And that's just a good thing for everybody to remember, to keep your blood pressure low as you watch a video on your region or background. And for my actors out there, once you're cast, remember to complete the research. Look up all the given circumstances of your character and then research the real speech of the real people who correspond with that information. This will help you create an accurate, authentic, and respectful portrayal.